Did we really go to the moon? Some of the footage does look questionable. Could they really broadcast live from space? And why haven't we gone back since 1972? We went 6 times, I'm pretty sure, in 4 years. I'm Liam. This is Minder, and I'm here to tell you there's a more important question to be asking. And I promise I've got something for the conspiracy theorists and the NASA fanatics. Trust me, hear me out. Then you can rip me to shreds, but hear me out. I'm back. We've had a haircut. We've gone for the moody lighting tonight. It's not looking the best. I've got some lights coming in the post, but the from, shine, sheen, shane, however you say it. So I'm not getting my hopes up. So this might be the best you ever get. So, did we go? Let's just be honest here. Evidence says probably. Well, the reflectors on the moon say yes. You can test that yourself with strong enough equipment, apparently. But some of the footage does look fake. And I'm going to show you things that I definitely do believe are fake. Although, I'm not going to lie, the debunkers will be coming for me. But the question of whether we went might not matter. Something happened to consciousness either way. This was a spectacle purposefully live on TV for the entire Earth. This isn't about proving or disproving. It's about understanding what this event did. What this event really means. What does it mean to land on a celestial body? And this is going to be a great case study for me to show you my ontological approach to analysing the elites. They know the meaning, symbolism, and ritual of an event is more important than the content itself. Let me show you. Now, this is one of the things that I do personally find really hard to believe. Maybe it is real. I'm not saying I know about the intricacies of radio technology in 1969, okay? But again, that doesn't matter. We're not playing that game here. This is President Nixon sat in the Oval Office calling the moon. Just saying that sounds absurd. Watch it now. And look, we're getting some production value now. I'm actually showing you videos. I'm not just sat here in my bedroom.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure that they too join with Americans in recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the Sea of Tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to Earth.
Let's analyse Nixon's exact words. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. Let's unpack it slowly. So before, the heavens were sacred, separate, divine, alien to human life. And afterwards, heaven becomes man's world. It becomes mundane, controllable, profane. And this makes me think of when I used to study sociology, and we learnt about an interesting man called Max Weber. This is his disenchantment of the world stated explicitly. Just a little breakdown on what that is. This is the process by which modern society replaces traditional and magical explanations for phenomena with rational and scientific ones. This happens as science and bureaucracy become more dominant, leading to a world that is demystified and demagified. I think that's the right word. I think that's how you say it. Is that even a word? Right, my Word document saying that's wrong, but this is a direct quote from Google AI, so take it up with him. Consequently, people become disillusioned with religious and supernatural beliefs because they are seen as irrational and unverifiable compared to scientific knowledge. Weber viewed this as a significant and potentially alienating characteristic of modern life. So when Nixon says this isn't celebration, this is a declaration. Nixon is explicitly telling you what the event is for. It's about making man a god and bringing the gods down to earth. And we're going to get into what that kind of symbolizes in the videos as we go through. It makes me think of Prometheus and Lucifer, but they're for a whole nother video. Here's an interesting point to it though. What does he say? They're sitting on the Sea of Tranquility and he says, This inspires us to bring peace and tranquility to Earth. Wait, what? Why does that follow? Why does landing on the moon then make you want to sort out Earth? If anything, I would think it would mean the opposite. Now we don't really need to care about Earth because we can go anywhere in space. But let's take it for what it is. But let's also talk about who's saying it. This is President Nixon's record leading up to when he said that speech. Secret Cambodian bombing 4 months before. Secret Laos bombing. Vietnam War extension. COINTELPRO. That's an approximately combined estimated range of deaths from 3.1 to 4.2 million deaths. Thank you for your peace and tranquility, President Nixon. We really, really appreciate it. So, that's what Nixon said. But what about the astronauts themselves? So let's take a look at the press conference after Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin returned back to Earth. Now this is famous for their sheepish demeanour. Just imagine you'd done something so remarkable that no other human in history had ever done it, and people are sitting excitedly wanting to hear about your experience. How would you act? How would you feel? So when you watch this clip, check their body language. But the key bit for me, however, is when the reporter asks the fundamental question. This is the whole point of this video.
Many of us and many other people in many places have speculated on the meaning of this first landing on another body in space. Would each of you give us your estimate of what is the meaning of this to all of us?
You want to try that?
After you. I think that what this means is that many other problems perhaps can be solved in the same way by taking a commitment to solve them in a long time fashion. I think that we were timely in accepting this mission of going to the moon. It might be timely at this point to think in many other areas of other missions that could be accomplished.
Well, everybody looking at me?
What does it mean that we've touched another celestial body? And what's their response? They all look uncomfortable, they look at each other, no one knows what to say, and Buzz deflects into technocratic speech. What does he say? It says it shows that we can plan and achieve things. Maybe we can plan for other things in society. This isn't meaning, this is project management. They couldn't articulate what it meant because meaning had been taken away. Or you just believe they didn't go in the first place, but something's definitely up, and the way he talks about, I don't know, planning for a future. Again, when President Nixon says that about peace, I'm not buying it. And when anyone related to the US government says anything about planning, I get suspicious because it actually looks like they're very, very good at it. When you look at time, when you look at history, things are coming to fruition, guys. As in, how do these ontological ideas, how does the meaning, ritual, and symbol of some of the biggest spectacles in history affect the way we think and our state of consciousness? But there's another thing Buzz said that's even more interesting.
Well, I believe that what this country set out to do was something that was going to be done sooner or later, whether we set a specific goal or not.
If we didn't do it, someone would do it. It was inevitable. Kennedy said something similar. Space exploration will go ahead whether we join in or not. And if you go back to Kennedy's speech in 1962, where he announced the moon landings, or the plan, for the moon landings, there's another revealing moment. He says his famous line, "We're not going to the moon because it's easy, we're going because it's hard." And he compares this to climbing Mount Everest. He quotes the British climber George Mallory being asked why he wants to climb Mount Everest, and he answers, because it's there. But let's think about what that means. To the Sherpa people, Mount Everest isn't just there, like some obstacle waiting to be conquered. It's, let me get this pronunciation right, it's Chomolungma, which means the mother goddess of the world. It's sacred, it's the home of deities. When they climb it, they do so with ritual, with prayer, with offerings, as a spiritual pilgrimage. But to Western mountaineers, it's a challenge, a thing to overcome, as if it's just waiting for us, begging to be conquered. And we've done exactly that. Everest is now a $50,000 tourist package, a commodity. Bodies pile up, it's covered in rubbish. Are you getting the parallel I'm drawing to the way for the whole of human history we've viewed space? He again is revealing the method by talking about Mount Everest. Mount Everest was this sacred spiritual place. This is the realm of meaning, symbol, and ritual. This is the realm of the mind that we used to live in, that we've lost. Weber's disenchantment of the world. We disenchanted a sacred mountain and turned it into a product. And Kennedy uses this exact process of disenchantment and conquest as his inspirational message of why we should conquer the moon. He's telling you what they're doing. He's citing one act of cosmic disenchantment to justify another. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. That's not humility. That's Promethean pride. That's conquest logic dressed as a noble challenge. Kennedy told you we're going to do to the moon what we did to Mount Everest. Turn the sacred into the conquered. And anyway, all this talk of inevitability, when they are all acting like there's no other option, it's going to happen, it reminds me of a lot of things that we have in life. And I think it's actually effectively an occult magical technique to bring things into reality. So when did this moon landing idea become inevitable? So in the 1920s, you had Robert H. Goddard. He invented the liquid-fueled rocket. He was told it was impossible. Nobody was thinking it was inevitable in 1920. Then, in the 1950s, suddenly it became inevitable. Magazines show moon bases, Disney specials, and we'll get into that because Walt Disney was working with someone quite interesting in this story. Basically, there was an explosion, but the more you look into it, you realise the explosion was manufactured. It wasn't like the human mind suddenly went, I want to go to the moon. The idea was placed into the public consciousness. What I'm trying to do is, I'm not giving you any answers again. I'm just trying to help you view reality and society in a different way. Once you get onto this ontological approach of thinking, what do things actually mean? That's more relevant than necessarily what they actually are, because in a certain realm of reality, that is the more powerful thing. Something may exist out there, but the way it exists inside of you is different because it means something different to you than what it actually is. And the elites are amazing at exploiting that gap. I'm just trying to show you a framework through the biggest spectacle in human history that undoubtedly changed our relationship with the world, with the transcendent, with the great beyond. And then by 1961, Kennedy declares it inevitable. It's going to happen. So what changed? Operation Paperclip, which we're going to have to get into later because that's related to who Walt Disney was working with, okay? Werner von Braun, if you don't know who he is, we're going to talk about it. It's not really great the way NASA started, if you look into it, in many different ways, okay? It was started by a group of people who understood consciousness engineering. They'd just come from Nazi Germany, who definitely understood how to engineer consciousness. Inevitability isn't observation, is basically what I'm saying. It's creation. This is how you make a self-fulfilling prophecy. Declare something inevitable. This removes choice or agency from people's minds psychologically. They might not even realise, but that's what it does. It makes opposition seem futile because they're fighting a lost cause. You keep telling people it's going to happen, and then it happens. This is not some supernatural thing. Consciousness shapes behaviour, and behaviour shapes reality. There's this whole subtext to everything that happens in life. And the elites are aware of this, and I'm trying to make as many people as I can also aware of this, so you're less susceptible to basically being hypnotized effectively. I'm here to say, guys, magic is real. It just might not be with a magic wand, okay? The power of words, power of meaning, the power of symbols. This is magic. This is occultic practices. Ideas that have gone on for 2,000 years, okay? Like, there's a reason it's gone on for 2,000 years and why people still practice it, because it's real. Like, it's real, and this is it in action, okay? This is not a video about technology. We're talking about consciousness here. So, what does this make you think of now? You know when they're talking about AI, Don't they talk about AGI in just the same way? Maybe I'm going totally off the beaten track, but I think the exact same thing is happening with AI. They say it's inevitable, so it becomes true. It's not inevitable. You know what I mean? It's not. But the more you get convinced that it is, it's going to be. This is super effective. You can just call it psychology if you want. I'm saying it's a step deeper. We're going into realms of consciousness. So, same spell, but 60 years later. Like, the truth doesn't change. Like, these techniques will never change because this is how reality works. This is what I'm trying to say. So, one of the best ways people debunk anything to do with the moon landing, whether they went, even the things I'm saying, you could say, no. If America was doing that, Russia would have said something. They were in a space race. It was the Cold War. They were absolute worst enemies. They were the polar opposites of each other. They would have said something. And that's the most common thing you hear if you start talking about the moon landing. But here's where I think most people are looking at it wrong. And this is one of my biggest points I'm going to keep harping home in these videos. That argument assumes that capitalism and communism were genuinely opposed, that the Cold War was a real ideological battle. But what if they're not opposed? What if they're on the same plane? Let me just explain, okay? This is my contribution to society, okay? If this is all I ever give, I think it would do some good. A 3D political model. So, political thinking right now is entirely 2D. You've got the left and the right. You've got democratic and authoritarian, or whatever they call it. You know what I mean? That's largely the compass everyone goes by. But what I'm trying to say is, all of these are on the same plane, the material plane. They disagree about how to organize matter, who owns factories, who controls resources, how wealth gets redistributed, but they agree on something fundamental. Reality is material. Consciousness is secondary. The physical world is all that matters. That's the 2D plane, material ontology. Now imagine a third dimension, a vertical axis. At the bottom, matter is primary. Consciousness is emergent from brain chemistry. At the top, consciousness is primary. Matter emerges from consciousness. That's the 3D model. And when you look at it from this direction, capitalism and communism are virtually next to each other. From one angle of the 3D model, they literally look, you can't even see the difference. They both believe that consciousness is just brain chemistry. They both believe in disenchantment. They both believe the cosmos is just dead matter ready to be conquered or to be organised effectively. The real division I'm trying to say is not capitalism v communism. The real division is materialism versus consciousness-focused ontologies. So when people say Russia would have exposed a fake moon landing, maybe Russia and America were competing over who would be able to put a flag on dead matter, but they were collaborating on a deeper project, proving that space is just dead matter, proving materialism, disenchanting the cosmos. Whether we went or not, both superpowers benefited from the moon landing as a consciousness event. It proved the heavens are material. They're conquerable. Thank you, Nixon. But capitalism and communism need that to be true to function. Because if the cosmos is sacred, if consciousness is primary, if there are dimensions beyond the material, then their entire power structure is running by the wrong ontology. You know what I find interesting? Kennedy said we go to the moon because it's there, because it's hard, because it's a challenge, because it's unknown territory we should explore. But there is another territory, another dimension, another sacred space to take over. Consciousness itself, inner space, not outer space. The realm that mystics and shamans and psychedelic explorers have been exploring for millennia. That dimension is also there, it's also hard, it's also unknown. So why don't we fund that exploration? Why don't we have a NASA for consciousness? A space race for inner dimensions? Why is 25 billion for rockets acceptable, but suggesting we systematically explore consciousness gets you laughed out of the room? Because that sacred space actually threatens them. Going to the moon reinforces materialism. It tries to prove that the cosmos is just dead matter to be conquered. But exploring consciousness, that proves they're wrong about everything. That's the sacred place they'll never let us explore. Not because it's not there, but because it's too there. It's right there in you at all times. They've managed to build a ontology where they've obscured the reality right in front of you. Not even in front of you, behind your eyes. It's there, and yet it never, ever, ever gets talked about. Not in any serious way. I'm at uni right now. I study anthropology. I've just done an essay. I've had to write, it was the worst essay of my life, but I had to write an essay about early human evolution. Not once do we talk about consciousness. Not once. And I know if I brought it up, they'd be like, well, how do we test that? And I'd say, how do we test anatomical changes? Well, first, before we even look for any bones, we've got to know about our own anatomy to be able to tell how it compares. So, I don't know, maybe we could start there. Maybe we could start exploring ourselves first. That could be an idea. But no, they won't even look at it. They talk about agency all the time in anthropology, the ability to act upon the world. What acts on the world more than anything? This is the thing that interprets and understands all agency and meaning. And yet they never, ever, ever mention it. I'm telling you guys, I've been there for 2 years now, not one conversation about consciousness. Not a single one. And if people really realised all this, then the game changes. So yeah, that's my contribution. A 3D political model with consciousness added in. But anyway, that's just answering the little debunking thing about Russia would not have allowed it or whatever, okay? I will do a whole video on that at another time because I could go so deep into that. That is the centre of it all, is this. We act like there's so much variation in the world, but once you just see everything as materialism, it's really not. In my opinion, they were both on the same team when it comes to ontology. When it comes to what things actually are and what they mean, they're working together. So if this is the case, if what I'm saying, just entertain me for a second. If what I'm saying is right, hypothetically, still stay critical with me, okay? But if it is, let's talk about who would understand this in these circles. So let's talk about Jack Parsons. He founded the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. This was America's first rocket program. It's now owned by NASA. This guy was there at the very, very start of NASA, okay? He invented the first ever rocket engine, guys. Okay, Jack Parsons. Give him a Google. He was a practicing and open occultist. He was a Thelemite, which is a cult religion, effectively, founded by Aleister Crowley, whose name I'm pretty sure most of you will know. If you don't know Aleister Crowley, I don't know how you found this video. I'd give him a Google, because then you'll understand what this type of man is, because he was a devout Crowley follower. They would write letters together. They had communication his whole life. He understood consciousness engineering. It was all about symbols, manifestation, ritual, magic with a K, actual magic. Aleister Crowley is on the Sgt. Pepper album cover, okay? Aleister Crowley inspired so many people. Rightly or wrongly, there must be some truth to what he's saying. This is what I'm trying to argue, is what these type of weirdos say is right. But it's like Lord of the Rings, man. You're either Gandalf or Saruman. They're using the same magic, but they use it differently. We need more Gandalfs, okay? Please, we need to get on their wavelength, because this is how they think. I'll do another video. Again, this is going to have to be a video. I wasn't lying when I said I've got like 50 videos to make. We'll do a whole video exploring all occult traditions, religions, and what they actually think. Occult just means secret. So these are ideas and beliefs and ways of understanding reality that are kept hidden. And you've got to ask, why are they kept hidden? So he died in 1952. He exploded making a rocket or something. Did that knowledge die with him, or did NASA inherit it? What NASA did do, Werner von Braun, a known SS Nazi, moved over in Operation Paperclip, became a celebrity in America. They never talked about the fact he was a Nazi. He was just a weird German. We just won't ask any questions about that, okay? And they had a concerted effort to make this enter the public consciousness, because they know that's the powerful bit. They turned the moon landing into a global ritual. This was a true phenomenon, a spectacle, a ritual. This is ritual, bro. They deployed symbolism carefully. The eagle of America, the eagle has landed. That's a powerful symbol. And speaking of names, why is it called Apollo? See, I always just assumed Apollo was the moon god, but actually he's not. That's his twin sister. Apollo is the sun god, the god of light, rationality, order. But Apollo represents clarity, making things visible through reason. The moon, his twin sister, Artemis, or Diana, depending on whether you're Roman or Greek, it represents mystery, cycles, the unconscious, the feminine sacred principle. So naming the missions Apollo is saying This is it. We're in the realm of symbolic language right now. It's effectively saying solar rationality conquers lunar mystery. The masculine principle of order claims the feminine sacred space. That is disenchantment of the world. They're telling you what it means. Reason masters intuition. There's this ontological view of this thing that I'm going to keep hammering it home. We need to think like them. And here's the thing that gets me. Most of the rockets and terrestrial objects are named after gods. Mercury, Gemini, Saturn, Atlas. We took the names of the divine and turned them into weapons to conquer them with. We're using the gods' own names to take over their realm. This is Promethean. This is Luciferian imagery. Rightly or wrongly, that's what I see it as. That's not homage. That's symbolic murder. It's effectively saying, your power is ours now. Your names are our tools. This is consciousness engineering, not just engineering. So I'm not saying NASA necessarily did literal rituals, although Jack Parsons definitely did, where they'd have, I don't want to get into it, a little eyes wide shut type stuff, you know what I mean, with their masks on or whatever. I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's how you look at this. This is ritualistic behavior. They understood this move for man to conquer the gods and effectively created a ritual to achieve it. So I would argue the technique survived after Parsons' death. There's power in words and there's power in symbols. That's all I'm saying. And we mentioned it before. What about these people that came over in the 1950s, guys from Europe? What was going on with them? Like, it sounds a bit suspicious if you ask me. Something's got to be up. So, let's talk about Wernher von Braun. Jack Parsons and Wernher von Braun are two of the two main men that started NASA, okay? So, director of the Marshall Space Flight Center, built Saturn V, former SS member, Nazi Party member. If you don't know about Operation Paperclip, they brought over 1,600 Nazis to come and help in their science in America. A lot on the space team. And his SS membership was classified until 1980s, after he died in the 70s. And in the 50s, he was doing Disney PR, all making space travel seem inevitable. And if you look at the SS, Himmler ran the SS. Himmler was obsessed with the supernatural and the occult. Okay, it can be overstated about the Nazis, about how interested they were in it, but Himmler genuinely was. Wernher von Braun learnt about consciousness engineering in the Third Reich. Look at what the Nazis did. That's all it was. They did it better than anyone. Look at how they hypnotized people with symbols. Why do you think they use a swastika, this ancient symbol that you just look at it? It's striking. It is. When you look at a swastika, something is striking about it that touches something in your consciousness that I think even transcends the Nazis. There's some type of, I don't know, but there's something striking about that symbol. Mythology. They're obsessed with mythology. All Aryan mythology. This is how to manipulate minds and consciousness. Their ideas of destiny. Is that not the same as saying things are inevitable? All that knowledge didn't disappear in new uniform. Techniques got imported and rebranded. So yeah, I'm not saying the Nazis were controlling everything, but they came over with more than just scientific know-how, okay? This final section is going to be kind of an interesting thing that people often talk about when it's conspiracies to do with the moon landing. Stanley Kubrick. People like to say that he filmed it, but again, I'm not even going down that thing. I'm going to go into what things mean. So let's look at 2001: A Space Odyssey, okay? It released 1 year before the moon landing. And not only does it have arguably better footage, it looks amazing. That's what it always blags my head when people go, like I was on some website the other day that was saying it would be easier to film on the moon than it would be to fake moon footage in a studio. And I was like, what? What? How? I couldn't get around the cognitive dissonance in my head. Maybe that's true again. I don't know technology, but I was like, how is that the case? Like 250,000 miles away, somewhere we've never been before. What? But anyway, it looks amazing when you watch it. But here's what most people don't know. So let's look at the bits of the film. Every time the humans encounter this monolith, they have an upgrade in consciousness. There's the first one with the apes. Then when they find it on the moon, and that's another leap in consciousness. And then at the end, when he becomes a star child and he transcends. When you watch the film, it's all about consciousness. It's about these leaps in what makes us what we are. On the surface, it looks like it's just technological, but the deeper meaning, I think, is Kubrick is portraying this ontological meaning of it all. It's all about consciousness, guys. And through upgrading our consciousness, like when the apes find it, they now know how to pick up tools and they know how to make weapons. The monolith doesn't give them better tools. It changes how they think, how they see, what's possible in their mind. External consciousness engineering. Or internal consciousness engineering. Ontological shifts about what's possible. Again, I just find it mad that in my degree, they never even think, oh, were there different stages of consciousness? No. Doesn't matter. Who cares? I find it baffling, genuinely. So yeah, Clarke and Kubrick encoded how consciousness evolution actually works. Kubrick visualized it 1 year before the moon landing. 2001 is explaining what the moon landing means. They showed you it's a consciousness project disguised as a space mission. Nixon's quote confirms it. The heavens have become part of man's world. Clarke and Kubrick told you just through symbols and meaning, through showing rather than telling. I hope that this isn't really confusing and I'm not getting my point across. Like, I'm just trying to show that we can look at the world through what it means rather than the content of what it actually is. Sometimes what it means is more powerful. And I'm saying that it created this paradigm where we are now the gods. We're the gods of matter. And there's nothing transcendent at all. And this is the exact mentality that creates the world we're in. Because we're ignoring the very essence of us. Because there's nothing inside. It's the ghost in the shell. It's an inconvenience. And I think the very same mentality that treats consciousness as an inconvenience because we want to go out and conquer dead matter, that same mentality has disdain for all humanity because that, whether we like it or not, is what we are. So, I don't know if we went in 1969. They talk about the retro reflectors or whatever. Okay, I've not seen them, but I believe you. Like, we use them all the time. But something happened in 1969 that shifted consciousness. That shift served someone's interests. These techniques are still being used, and whether the footage is real doesn't change that. This is what I'm saying. In the occult world, the content of something is unimportant. What matters is what the thing means, what it symbolizes. This is the power to control minds and manipulate consciousness. So yeah, I'm going to further explore this disenchantment of the world idea and how it coincides with this era that I view as Promethean or Luciferian. And I just want to say, that's why I'm comfortable in doubt, guys. It's in the asking questions and keeping an open mind that allows these other dimensions to appear, that allows new questions to be asked. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to bring into the discussion, just a new way of viewing it, the way of viewing the world. The heavens have become part of man's world, but the question is, which men? And I think I've again repeated a lot of shit and gone back over stuff, but I think we're at the end. I think I've said my piece. But I know the moment I finish, I'll be like, oh shit, I didn't say that. That was vital. No one's going to understand. If you don't understand, give me comments. It's going to help me with the algorithm. Tell me what you think. Take it easy, guys. Thank you for listening. If you got this far, well done. Yeah. See you next time. Tell me if there's anything you want me to talk about as well.